You're listening to Extra Innings, presented by Next Level Training Center on the Sports Objective. Join us every Sunday night on Facebook Live and our YouTube channel as we talk East Carolina baseball.
Welcome into Extra Innings right here, presented by Next Level Training Center in Greenville. Our good friends Trent Britt and Gaynell Britt, we appreciate them very much for the sponsorship of the show. And WrestleMania is on tonight. And I tell you what, we had WrestleMania. We had a wrestling match earlier in Cincinnati. We'll get to that this weekend. Bubba, we've got a very special guest. One of our all-time favorites is back with us tonight as we have a very special guest.
Yeah, to take a look back at the Pirates' 2-2 week, like you said, that included a series win, a hard-fought series win up at Cincinnati. I'm very excited to welcome Coach O back. Coach, how are you?
Really good, Bubba, and thanks for having me. Good to be with you and Dave both.
I guess this was really, Coach, we'll get back to we'll backtrack on the week, but today was definitely a rubber match, and we were talking in the green room. I guess it really comes down to will and one of the things that I brag about Coach Godwin is the term, if you had one word I could say about Coach Godwin, is grit. And I think that that prevailed today. And I know that he always talks about mental toughness. It's not the physicality like we would think about in football, but there's some sense of that when the mental toughness of the game that, some people think that it's so easy and they don't realize how hard it is to hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, much less the different types of breaking balls, sliders. And I really was impressed the way that we pulled that out. And one question I had to you, Coach, is before we get started on this past week, a recap is, do you have any wild games that come to mind? I know you won so many games, but are there ones that are some of your favorites that you could share some light and some stories for us?
Well, the ones that I think of, Dave, we actually didn't win. And so that makes it a little less pleasurable. But I do remember an extremely high-scoring game. Both of these games actually were at home and late in the season, and it was two pretty good clubs in the old Colonial Athletic Association days. We actually were playing George Mason both of those times, and both were tied for first place. The one that stands out the most was one of those games where we ended up losing something. I can't remember the exact score, but it was something like 21-16, and it was wow. It was that way. Well, it was a day the wind was blowing out. It was a late season game, strong wind, and pop-ups were going out as home runs, you might say. It was more of a live ball era back then too. But it was like we would take the lead, they would take the lead, and so forth, and then we hit a point where, as they continued scoring, we just didn't catch up. But it was a wild day, somewhat like today, but the wrong team won. And then there was another where we actually we were pretty far behind, and it was something like a 9-2 score, and then in the last two innings. We made a push, tied the game, went into extra innings, and we lost there. But it was something brought that back as a memory today when I noticed pinch runners being used. And I was not a big proponent of pinch runners back in those days unless you needed to. And there were times you absolutely had to, like you needed speed on second base when a runner was in scoring position. But in that particular day, we had a DH that was a power hitter, and he got on base, and I heard a lot of calls about using a pinch runner. He was certainly not a speedster by any means. And I remember turning to my assistant and making the comment, our only chance of winning this game is getting him back to the plate one more time. He actually did. He hit a home run, and that game went into extra innings. We just didn't win. But they're wild games. But also to mention about today's game and Cliff being gritty, as you called it, what was so impressive about today's game, Pirates lost game one of the series. And in order to win the series, a little pressure on winning two straight on the road. They won yesterday, and then after blowing a 6-run lead today, take the lead again, pad the lead, and then lose it again. So for the Pirates to come back like they did, so impressive. And I'm sure Coach Godwin was managing his bullpen today probably in a manner that what is needed right now at this moment. Not 2 innings from now, not 3, but at this moment. And it worked. It certainly came to fruition. You and I talked earlier off the air about the depth of this bullpen, and he handled it very well today. I'm sure the plane ride home tonight is going to be really good because that was a series win that was in question 48 hours ago.
Now, Coach O, Charles chimed in on Facebook, and I want to go ahead and ask this question because you referenced it and already touched on it a little right there. As far as the game today, Pirates used 11 pitchers. I think at least about 8 or 9 of those were already used by the 5th or 6th inning, and then fortunately Ben Terwilliger came on and had a terrific 2 2/3 innings of work. But before we hone in more on his performance and talk about the series as a whole, wanted to touch on, what you were just saying as far as why we use so many pitchers today, and elaborate a little bit more on that, because Charles was saying, why do we use 10 pitchers a game?
Well, in a high-scoring game, sometimes that's what it takes. And this was definitely a high-scoring game. I wish I had the box score in front of me, but I was telling Dave earlier, I know headed into the 9th inning, we had 16 hits. I think Cincinnati at the time had 12. It was an offensive explosion by both clubs. And that is why I used the reference to regardless of whether it was 10, 8, 6, 15, you pitch for the moment. In other words, if you need Cooch Maynard to come in to pitch to a left-handed hitter, you do so. And then if you have to go to Spivey, who just threw yesterday, we can go on and on. Regardless of the circumstance, it's finish this inning and then go from there. And as the Pirates were doing so, and sometimes couldn't finish innings, but as the Pirates were finishing innings, what Coach Godwin was looking for was somebody that could sustain part of the game. And that's exactly what Ben Terwilliger did. I'm not sure if he came in the 6th or 7th, but he got the Pirates not in position, but kept them in position to capture that win. Now, fortunately, we held on at the last moment, 9th inning. It was a little scary at that point, but Ben got us to that point and kept us there for some length of time. That's what Coach Godwin was looking for. To answer our listener's question, he was trying to find the person who was going to eat up maybe 2-3 innings, and Ben did just that.
And Coach O, you brought up on not having the box score in front of you. Out of the Pirates' 11 pitchers, 7 of those pitchers saw 2/3 of an inning or less, including 3, Bill, Mayhew, and Saylor, who threw 9, 15, and 6 pitches respectively and did not record an out, which drives home your point as far as just finding a guy that's when Coach made the change of bringing Zach Agnos to the mound from shortstop.
Bubba, the names that you mentioned, it's really hard to imagine that the Pirates won today without a really good Saylor, a really good Mayhew, a really good Spivey, and the guys who have carried them through the bullpen. Now, that doesn't mean that they have been better than the others. It just means that they've been more productive in their outings, and yet today we're not. Pirates still win. Someone stepped up.
And Coach, we were talking about off the air, rather, that it seems like even when I was coaching my son at Farm League, we're looking now at Little League. My son has moved up now. It doesn't matter what level, all the way up to Major League Baseball. By the way, folks, it starts thankfully on Thursday. But we were talking about in the green room before the show that getting that third out is so difficult. And you're looking at a game, and I know it sounds, I'm not being condescending, but if you look at it, we're playing for 27 outs and breaking it down to, you can go inning by inning or whatever you have to do. But I don't know necessarily that we're having a question about pitching. I just think that there's sometimes when it's like life, things happen, and how do you react to when things are – what I'm impressed about today, Coach, the one major point I want to make tonight, I'm impressed with the fact that things were not going necessarily our way after we built that lead. We could have literally just rolled over and taken the loss and get back on the plane ride and come home. Instead, we found a way to win. So, people used to say to me all the time as a basketball coach, well, that was an ugly win. I don't use that term ugly win because people don't realize until you've coached, you have know-how. Bubba has, the three of us have on this panel. Wins are difficult to come by.
They really are. And you're right. I just think it has to be a happy group tonight, not because they won the season. They have to play another 3-game series against Cincinnati, but because they won this series. No, the reason they're happy is by the way they won, how they won, the many, many things it took to win that game. And it wasn't just 1 or 2. And the game actually changed 3 to 4 times in the last half of the game. So, they have to be proud. They have to be very, very happy. And games like this can be a little bit of a surge. It can be a shot in the arm. Sometimes you can play like that. Going back to your original statement, though, Dave, when you're playing an offensive game and things are just going just that. Offensive is not going well for pitchers. Defense isn't playing so great, but more important, teams are scoring a lot of hits, a lot of runs, and so forth. Then players seem to think they're not going to make that last out. And they're not looking at scoring 1 run, but even with 2 outs, they're looking at scoring multiple runs, or we like to call it a crooked number. And it's a mentality thing. And because it's a mentality thing, there's a lot of confidence brewing with those guys' bats in their hands. And it's a totally different game. It's not like a 2-0, 1-0, 2-1 game. It's a game where the offense feels like it's going to score regardless.
And Coach, after being shut out in the midweek against NC State, 2-0, NC State this weekend, they went down, took 2 out of 3 at Clemson. So a tremendous series win for the Wolfpack. But before we talk more about what happened up at Cincinnati, go back to that game against the Wolfpack. You were there on hand for that one. Just what were your thoughts on the way that game unfolded? Pirates pitched very well, allowed just 2 runs on 8 hits. 7 of those 8 hits were singles, and then they did an excellent job keeping Tommy Tanks, as they call him, Tommy White, in check, allowing just the 2 singles to him. But Pirates just could not get the bats going. The Wolfpack threw 4 arms, and Payne, Silver, Nelson, and Villeman just threw very well.
Well, Pirate pitching, I think that game was indicative of what Pirate pitchers have been through this year. And that is that they really have done a good job. That game could have slipped away at any time. And the pitching staff, matter of fact, every pitcher who threw in that game actually had to rise to an occasion just to keep the game in check. We all kept thinking that the Pirates would score later in the game. Only 3 hits for the day, and it wasn't a game that the Pirates were able to win. I think the biggest reason for that, Bubba, you just mentioned, and when you finish with a guy like Villeman, he's one of the best in the country. He's not the best. I know D1 Baseball came out with their top 100, but and he was up there near the top. But all 4 of the guys they threw were really good that day, and it was just tough on Pirate hitters. But it was a game that the Pirates were, I think I, and all fans were waiting for the Pirates just to take the game or to win the game, because the Pirates were keeping the Wolfpack where we wanted them. But it was just not to be. There was maybe that was a credit to the NC State staff, but I just don't think the Pirate hitters made quite the adjustments needed, or even used a sense of urgency late in the game to capture that game. But yeah, that was a big win for the Wolfpack, and this weekend another series win for them as well.
And you mentioned that name, Carter Spivey. that was a game against the Wolfpack. If the Pirates would have been able to muster some offense and come back and win that game, Carter Spivey's relief effort would have certainly been a large reason for that. 4 2/3, a shutout relief, and allowed just 2 hits, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks.
Yeah, he was on top of his game, and those names that we mentioned earlier, we've seen that also from Saylor. We've seen it from Mayhew, but I think of the three, Carter Spivey has been the name that has surfaced this year because he had not had a great career until this year. Now, just what he's done on the mound thus far warrants, I think, words of not just encouragement but acknowledgement for being a Pirate pitcher who can carry a lot of pride with him through the rest of his not just career but also later on as well.
And Coach, we always say with pitchers that need some help as far as getting the runs are going. My great uncle is Roger Craig, and he was the very first. If you want to win a bar bet, he was the very first pitcher ever for the Mets in 1962, and he lost a lot of games with the Mets. It would be like 2-1, 1-0, a lot of one-run games. And so I'm thinking about this pitching staff. Anytime I see the Pirates and they have, like that game, I was just shaking my head on Tuesday. I'm like, it's an in-state rival. You want to beat NC State really bad, but just looking like, can we get the bats swinging to help these pitchers out? And I don't know. I'm not an expert. You are more than I am for sure, without a doubt. But I just don't know how to get those. How do you get those bats swinging to help out the pitchers?
Well, I think what Cliff Godwin's trying to do, and it's pretty obvious that he's changing lineups. He's moving people around in the order. That's a big factor. But he's also playing a lot of people, and he's trying to find the right combinations. You made a comment earlier, Dave, about sometimes it takes the length of a season to get where you want to go, or to get to be where you feel like you need to be. This may be one of those that just takes longer than others. But by playing a lot of people, we've seen Jenkins Cowart surface. We've seen Clonch surface. Now we're seeing Starling surface. So some players are moving into the lineup that are posting some pretty good numbers. It isn't always a good number, but at the same time, they've been pretty steady. All of these young guys that we're mentioning. So what do you have to do as far as a mechanical thing? Not at all. I think there are some mental things. I used the term sense of urgency a little bit earlier. I don't think it was there for the NC State game. But other than that, other than the mental part of the game, I just think the right combinations have to be found. And I think Cliff Godwin's going to find those.
Coach, going back to the Cincinnati series, and we have not touched on Friday's game. Jake Cooch-Maynor has been very good this year. But on Friday, probably Cooch's roughest outing of the year. Just an inning and 2/3, 5 runs, 4 earned on 4 hits. And he threw 40 pitches in those inning and 2/3. So, and that's obviously one of the things that allowed him to come back today.
Yeah, you're right. He had a limited number of pitches on Friday. But coming into the series, Bubba, Cincinnati, not a bad hitting club. And 2-3 players that are really, really good. But when you compare their offensive numbers to their pitching numbers, it's they're diametrically opposed, you might say. And their pitching staff had a lot of trouble getting us out the last 2 days, but not their offense. Their hitters can hit. Well, my point, I'm not sure that they didn't just, what's the football term, punch us in the face from the beginning. I think they walked in the park and hit us flat, and Cooch-Maynor took the brunt of that on Friday. We were behind, and we were behind the 8 ball from the second inning on. It was a game of catch up, but all of that was due to Cincinnati's hitters, and a credit to them because they are pretty good.
And from that point, after Cooch was lifted from the game, Garrett Saylor was excellent. 3 1/3, allowed just 1 run on 1 hit, 7 strikeouts, and no free passes. And it gave the Pirates a chance to come back, but the the Pirates were unable to really get the bats going. They did make some things happen late, which maybe carried over into Saturday and Sunday, where the offense was very good, as you've mentioned. But Connor Lynn got the victory for Cincinnati, allowing just 1 run on 5 hits in 6 innings.
Yeah, you mentioned Carter Spivey last Tuesday and then Saylor in the Friday game. Terwilliger today. As good as the Pirate pen has been, when they throw back-to-back days or maybe even all 3 days of a weekend, they seem to lose a little of that effectiveness. And that's because their arms are not really trained to go that large of an amount of innings. Although I credit Cliff Godwin. I'm like Dave. I credit him for what he's done and what he's trying to do to find that combination. And from a pitching standpoint, again, you pitch in the moment at times, and that occurred today. But each of those guys, you mentioned 3 1/3 or 4 2/3, I think was the case with Spivey the other day. Yes, all of those guys have held the Pirates or kept the Pirates into games or kept Pirate leads intact. But a lot of good things have come out of that bullpen this year, and Saylor was certainly that way on Friday.
And Coach, the other thing to keep in mind, not only do I love Coach Godwin for the fact that he's playing a lot of players, he cares about the kids, their future as far as if they have a chance to be the MLB. And we're certainly in a success, wins and losses business. He could easily say, well, I'm just going to keep the guy out there. The other thing is, I would say to the fans that when you're asking, are we using too many pitchers, it could be the reverse, where Coach Godwin says, A, I don't have enough pitching today, so I've got to go with this guy longer than I want to. Or B, he could be stubborn, hypothetically speaking, and keep a guy that he loves in too long, and we could, lost the game. So there's many different ways to look at it. And I will never question you or Cliff Godwin because y'all forgot more about baseball than I'll ever know. So that's what I would say to fans is there's the old term that I will tell people, not that you guys need to defend you guys, but I would just say this: there's a method to his madness, and there's a reason why he's doing it. It's not because he's just let's try something. He has a reason why he's doing it.
Another point to that, Dave, you're exactly right. Why do we use so many pitchers, and why do we keep pitchers in a short period of time? A lot of teams have a true number one, and it's rare to see a season where so many teams do not have a number one. ECU this year, and Jake Kuchmaner has done a great job. I'm taking nothing away from him. He's been outstanding. But a true number one, a Friday night guy, a shutdown guy, a guy that you're going to run out there and you feel like you have a really, really good chance to win every time he goes out, much like Gavin Williams was last year, the Pirates don't have. And with that being the case, maybe you don't have a 5-inning guy, 6-inning guy, 7-inning guy, which is why you have to go 3 innings into the fourth. Hey, Tampa Bay does it. They do it in Pro Bowl, and they go to their bullpen early. So it's not just a ploy, but it's one means of pitching around the fact that there's no true number one.
Coach, moving on to Saturday's game, the Pirates were able to, after a couple of scoreless innings, push a run across in the third. And then it remained 1-0 until the 6th. And in the 6th, man, you mentioned that name, Jacob Jenkins Cowart. What a freshman season he's having. He hit one up on the top of the Fifth Third arena out in right field. It had to be about 400 feet or more.
Yeah, his home run, 3-run home run, I believe, Bubba, opened that game.
Yeah, that's correct.
And in so doing, now Cliff Godwin takes a different approach. Instead of running pitchers out there just to pitch in the moment, now what he's basically trying to do is to close the game. And when I say close the game, he's doing so over about a 3 to 4 inning span. He knows what he's going to do next inning, the following. So it isn't a game like today that was in the moment. Jenkins Cowart's blast was huge. Again, we're going to go to the bullpen. We're going to use multiple pitchers, but in a different light. And when we say Jenkins Cowart, let's go back to the Charleston series when Cam Clonch was given his chance. First 2 games of that series, he had 7 hits. And I think there were a couple of home runs in there as well. So his opportunity came. Jenkins Cowart's opportunity came. Again, we talk about Starling, who's playing a lot of second base now. And I know this is a little off the subject, but Starling's play is enhancing the fact that Ryder Giles can focus more on pitching and maybe be the number 2 guy like he was this weekend and solidify a win, because he's been one of the most effective Pirate starters thus far.
You mentioned Ryder Giles. We had Mike Radford chiming in saying, how do you evaluate the conversion of RG3 to weekend starter? And I mentioned that 4-0 lead that the Pirates were able to take in the middle innings, carrying that 1-0 advantage to the 6th was largely because of another terrific start by Ryder Giles, 4 1/3 shutout baseball, as he is not allowed a run yet all season long. 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a career high 70 pitches. The last 2 starts, he'd thrown, I think, 52, 53 pitches. So far and away the most pitches Ryder's thrown, and maybe going a little deeper in the game than some thought he would.
He's also, Bubba, I think we all would agree that he's also going a little further each time out, which is a really good sign. Now, I go back to the fact that there's a lack of a number 1 or a Friday night guy or a true number 1. And what we're seeing guys come out of the bullpen at 92, 93. Certainly, Carter Spivey can do that. Saylor's more of a 91 guy, but you have Savage, who's throwing a little bit more now, and he's a 93 guy. Even Agnos has touched 93 on a few occasions. But point being, when you're a guy like Ryder Giles and you don't throw hard, you can't make many mistakes. And because there's a small window there, that limits his innings as well. But he's garnering more innings with each outing, and that's certainly a positive sign for down the road. And in answer to Mike's question, Mike Radford, who wrote in, I think Ryder Giles is assuming that number 2 role, and I think he's jumped into the rotation with both feet. I think he's all in, and I think he's given the Pirates something they need right now, and that's a little more solid pitching in the starting rotation.
Coach, that very when we're talking about the Coach Godwin loves to play a lot of players, doesn't that bear well for us when it comes to regional time and potential super regional in Omaha? When you're talking about arms, I don't think people realize how much of a toll it takes. And I don't know because I've never pitched in my life, but just seeing the injuries and these little bitty, like nagging injuries, as they say. But when you look at the depth of the pitching, that's going to it may not show right now how deep we are, but when it gets to May, especially in June, I think that's going to play well for us.
Yeah, the innings, as the innings pile up, the wear on the arm piles up as well. But at the same time, we were talking about Coach Godwin liking to play a lot of players. Look at a guy like Starling right now, who's just now getting playing time. As the season wears on, then regardless of his classification, whether he's a sophomore, freshman, whatever, no, he's not. Not as that year wears on, because of the playing time that these guys, all of these guys, and I hate to keep mentioning the same ones, Jenkins, Cowart, and so forth, but these guys are not freshmen at the end of the year. They've got a year's experience, and that really is a big factor as well. But pitching wise, the fact that Giles is only going 4 1/3, the fact that although Cooch Maynor has gone 7 on one occasion, and he's probably been the longest this year, or I would think I think Groves did go into the 6th one time. But the fact that these guys are not throwing lengthy outings certainly keeps a fresh arm later in the season.
Something else, Coach, that it's been a struggle at times this year in terms of not responding when the opponent scores. But that's something that the Pirates did well this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. In that game on Saturday, I mentioned the 4-0 lead in the 6th after the Jenkins-Cowart home run. Cincinnati responds with 2, and then the Pirates put up a run in the 7th. Cincinnati responded with 2 more, but then in a tight ball game, 5-4 there in the top of the 9th. Amac, who had a tremendous weekend, he had an RBI double, and then earlier you mentioned that name, Jacob Starling. He's had 3 or 4 home runs here of late, and he delivered a big blow to left field.
And you're right about responding, Bubba. The old adage is that when a team scores, now is the time to answer. Not last inning, not next inning, but now. And that's the purpose behind that is to keep a little pressure, you might say, on the opposing team. In other words, they can never get enough. They can never get things going whenever an answer is made. And Pirates have done that. They didn't do it earlier in the year, but now they're starting to do that just a little bit more. Each of those guys. Now, one thing I want to say about Amac and Lane Hoover, those 2 guys, when the Pirates needed it the most, we talked about the NC State struggles of our offense, and we could go further back. Other than the LeClair tournament, we had several weekends where offense was anything we got would have been a really plus. But when the Pirates needed that shot in the arm, I called it earlier, it seemed like Lane Hoover was the one who started it. Amac, I think the term for him is he's been the most solid player we've had all year. He's been steady. He's not been down. He has been up at times, but he's not been down at any one particular time. He's provided the power as we had Friday. I think 2 home runs on Friday, even though we lost. And he's those 2 guys are what you would call a head coach likes to refer to them as the go-to guys. They're providing leadership on the field is what they're doing. It's not, there's nothing about leadership that's verbal, but instead what these 2 guys are doing, they're showing the way to a lot of these others. And you mentioned Jenkins, Cowart, and Starling, and Clonch was a name that I brought up. But they have someone to follow. They have someone that can lead. And that's why we saw the Pirates put up numbers yesterday, but bigger numbers today.
And Amac, Coach, here in just a few minutes, we'll talk about our PGX Gloves player of the game, or player of the week, I should say. And, very nip and tuck there between Lane Hoover and Amac. But Amac, I think, had 6 hits on the week, 3 doubles, 2 home runs that you mentioned. So 5 of those 6 hits were for extra bases.
And that's the part of his game that's been impressive. I want to say he's hitting like 283 at this particular moment, but which is good, really good. But Amac's putting up extra base hit numbers. He's putting up power type numbers. Now he leads the team in home runs, but that's irregardless to the fact that the doubles, the RBIs, the type of power that he's possessing for this team, all vital or just as important as any high number of a batting average.
And we heard Coach Godwin say at a press conference last year about it may have been early on, the seasons are running together, as you can imagine, but talking about how he worked harder than anybody else on the team last year, referring to Amac. And I think that I started to see a development and more playing time for him last year. He's so versatile this year, playing more of I would say, don't you think, more of a starring role? I hate to use that term, but for the team, a real leader, looks like off the field. And you know that team better than I do, and more of an inside scoop on it. But it just seems like that he's kind of taking charge, so to speak, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Dave, you used the term a starring role. and a starting role the way he does it is not one that's flamboyant in any way, shape, or form. It's not one that is let me show you the stars. Instead, we go back to solid effort or being the steady Eddie of the group. You're so right. There's so many ways to be a leader and so many ways to produce. And his is not quiet, but at the same time, it's not like he wants to be the star of the show. He just is.
So what you're saying, he's not like a Bryce Harper.
No, not at all.
And Coach, moving on to Sunday's game, Pirates, really did not receive the start they would have liked from Josh Groves, and had an excellent outing a week ago. This week, not as good. 2 1/3 through 68 pitches in that 2 1/3 innings of work. Three runs, all earned on 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk. But I was very impressed. And you referenced Trey Savage earlier. Man, not only does he throw hard, he has a very sharp breaking ball and your slider as well, and had those Cincinnati players fishing for some pitches in the dirt.
But just before the season started, I had a chance to talk with Austin Knight just to get a feel for how he liked his pitching staff and what he saw with guys that I didn't know anything about, Savage being one. And I remember one of the first things he said about Savage is he will pitch for us. He'll pitch a lot for us, and he'll be far better down the road. And he even used the term one time that his stuff is good movement, outstanding sync with that movement. But he even used the term that his stuff could be electric. And I think that speaks for the way he is. Josh Groves today, you're right. Based off his numbers, it probably wasn't one of his best outings, and especially when he was pitching with the lead. But I go back to the Cincinnati offense, and those guys could hit. I think those guys they were very aggressive with their swings, and their mentality is just that. Now they have a very good head coach, Scott Guggens. I know he and Cliff Godwin are very good friends, but he's also an excellent coach, and I think he's just run short on pitching this particular year. But no discredit to Josh Groves. I think he just ran into a pretty good hitting club.
Yeah, no doubt. And Pirates today and got the early lead, as you mentioned, and just continued to tack on throughout the game. 12 runs on 18 hits. So in the final 2 games of this series, 20 runs on 30 hits. Excellent to see after the bats were not very good against NC State in game 1 against Cincinnati. But, Lane Hoover, so consistent. Lane Hoover's hitting, I think, 383, 385, something like that after his 5-for-6 performance today. Has an 8-game hitting streak, and Lane Hoover is our PGX Gloves Player of the Week. Lane, 10 out of 18, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, 5 runs scored. He walked a time, so reached base 11 out of 19 plate appearances, and just 1 strikeout. So that's something you can count on Lane Hoover getting on base and putting the ball in play and making things happen. And Lane Hoover, congratulations to him. He is our PGXGloves.com Player of the Week.
And well-deserved honor there as well. I will ask you this, Bubba. Have you seen a player that has more ways of getting on base than he?
No question. He's one of those guys that, as Bubba joins us again, Coach was asking you, Bubba, have you seen a guy that can get on base more ways than Lane Hoover?
Not many of them, Coach. I've heard some opposing analysts, make that comparison. The way he'll slap a ball to the gap, the way he did today, and in that speed to really make it into second base and turn it into a double relatively easily. Comparing him, just talking about how there's a little bit of a Ichiro there.
Really interesting. That's a good comparison because he's a line drive ground ball hitter. I mean, there's no question about that. But he goes backside, and then for a short period of time, and I'm not talking about every other at bat, but he may go a couple of games and pull the ball in the right field corner. And we can go on and on about what he does with the bat, but where he seems to make his living is up the middle. And that's followed by one word that you just used. He gets a lot of base hits. He gets on base a lot, and he actually takes extra base because of speed. Having speed is one thing, but knowing how to use it is another. He uses it really, really well. I hear a lot of people talk about him using the fake bunt and then trying to hit away, and some think that he uses it too much. I think it's a moot point. I don't think it matters because of what he can do with the bat when he does swing, and he's a hit collector and he's an on base guy. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off the subject on him winning the award for this week, but well deserved on his behalf.
No question. He's a guy that we were talking about my son before the show, but he's definitely clutch. That's the kids use that term so much these days in our culture. And Lane Hoover is definitely clutch.
Yeah. And so many times, David, this is a term we haven't used much. I know after games, Cliff Godwin and I on a post-game show we'll talk a lot about base running. And, we talk about defense a little bit, but really an emphasis on base running because the Pirates do it so well. First to third, second to home. They're really good with that element of play. But Lane Hoover, he takes it up a notch. And when you see him go first to second on a base hit into the outfield, something's not right. Either that was a line shot, one hopper right at somebody, or the Pirates were just so far behind or so far ahead that the running game was off, because he's going to take the extra base one way or the other. But he produces scoring opportunities, and he puts a lot of pressure on the defense. Well, play today, I want to say there was a high hopper down the first base line, and he actually beat it out. That's part of his game. That's part of his play too, using speed to put pressure on defenders in the infield. But yeah, well-deserved honor for him.
And you talk about Lane Hoover, his ability to run the bases. There late in the game today, I guess the top of the ninth, the Pirates had already tacked on one insurance run. Coach Godwin was a little frustrated with Lane when Ben laced that double into the right field corner. Ben Terwilliger, that is. What a tremendous story there. He had probably 25 at-bats during his days at Barry, and then some during his time at Maine as well. But, you could sense the frustration. Lane realized his mistake as soon as he got gunned down at the plate. But it's just one of those things. Mistakes are going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's a part of aggressive base running.
Absolutely.
One term that coaches like to use is, I think an old term on a fly ball to the outfield is to go halfway. Actually, the real term is go as far as you can go without being doubled up. And the same in taking extra bases. When you're going first to third and the ball is in front, you're taking a chance. Sometimes you have to get thrown out. Now, I know it's not a good thing, but sometimes you have to determine how far you can go or when you can go, because giving up a chance to run sometimes is just as detrimental as being thrown out. If the opportunity's there, take it. And you mentioned a mistake, Bubba. Yeah, probably so, but same time might have been warranted. Pirates come out on top. It was warranted.
And as far as our pgxgloves.com pitcher of the week, we've mentioned that name, Ben Terwilliger, a lot. Ben had a solid outing, an inning and 2/3 on Friday after not having pitched in, I think it was 9 days, going back to March 23rd. So it was nice to see him do well then, and that obviously gave Coach Godwin even more confidence to go with him today in that situation. When the Pirates were struggling to get outs, he came in and was fantastic, going 2 2/3, allowing just one hit, and combined in those two outings, in relief, 4 1/3, no runs, 1 hit, 5 strikeouts, and threw 65 pitches in a span of 3 days there, and that was the most he's thrown in a 3-game or 3-day stretch. This season, the most he had thrown previously combined in 3 games, or in 2 outings over 3 days, I should say, was, I think, something like 42 or 43.
Yeah, and the 5 strikeouts, but 1 hit in those 4 1/3 innings, and that without rest. Again, 2 outings, very important. But going back to something we discussed earlier, and that was that his appearance today was late in the game. That's different being or putting up those numbers in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th innings versus the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings when the Pirates need it the most. So a term you use, Bubba, he responded. There's no question about that. He really stepped up. But I like Dave's term, and that is he was clutch today. He was the man. He gave the Pirates the lift they needed.
No question. We talk about in sports all the time. In this particular case, baseball coach, it's next man up. So who is going to be that guy? And I think he obviously likes to hear his name in the PA system, right? He likes to have his name called.
Yeah, and credit to Ben too. His first couple of outings were pretty good, and then the next couple of outings he got hit a little bit. Now he wasn't hit around a lot, not by any means, but he was hit a little bit. And what's really good is to see him get the opportunity again in a crucial situation and really respond in that situation. And that's something I think that those first 2 outings showed us that type of Ben Terwilliger is there.
In addition to the offensive performances of Hoover, Jenkins, Cowart, and also Amac, we have not talked much about this guy, but Zach Agnos, he was clutch. Not only did he come in relief today, but he also had a couple of 2-hit games against the Bearcats, had a big triple today. I think that to lead off the 9th inning and score that big insurance run that made it 12-10. And Zach, he's going to come through in the clutch, and he's a guy that's very reliable and so versatile. He can play anywhere in the infield and has, with the exception of first base. And he's obviously very comfortable coming in on the mound when you need him as well.
And I asked the question about Lane Hoover. Have you seen a guy that has more ways of getting on base? But the question I have about Zach Agnos is this. Have you seen a guy look so comfortable at all 3 infield positions? Most of the time, a third baseman is just that. He's a third baseman, or second baseman. Maybe he lacks arm strength, so that's why he's not a shortstop. But Zach Agnos looks like he belongs at third base. He looks like he belongs at second, and he looks like he belongs at short. He's really suited for all 3 positions and looks very, very comfortable in all 3. Now, that's a lot about his defense, and we know that as the seasons have unfolded, each of his years here, he's warmed up with the bat. Maybe started a little slow, and that was the case this year, but has really warmed up with the bat of late. You mentioned the triple in the 9th inning today. So, yeah, I mean, Zach Agnos, he has a lot, and he has power. We know that. But where Amac has a little bit more, he's a steady player, much like Amac has been. And then to call upon each of these guys, Agnos particularly, to throw and to be effective, he's been good there as well. I heard a couple of scouts say earlier in the year that last summer, Zach Agnos touched 93, 94. And I knew I had not seen that. I said, no, he's 89. He's 88, 89. I guess he could touch 90, but not seen 93, 94. And then this year, his first time out, he's 93. And since then has actually touched 94 once. So that's some arm strength that has developed over the last year and a half. And we all know that people do that during the course of their careers. But that's another answer as to why he is as good as he is on the infield. Short, second, third. He's very comfortable there. And that arm strength increase may make him more comfortable.
Coach, do you remember when his brother Jake said that he was the better Agnos? I mean, for Jake Agnos to say that Zach was the best Agnos, that was a lot. But I think now we're starting to see that as much as we love Jake, hey, Zach is doing very well. And like you said, to play any position on the infield is impressive, but to do all those positions, but he makes it look so easy, and it's not easy. I wish people could understand how hard and difficult any position on the diamond is.
Yeah. Just a few games ago, I can't recall the game. I want to say it was one of the VCU games. Now I know it was, but a play he made at third base when he crossed the line, had to take a couple of steps to regroup, and still the throw that he made across the diamond to get a runner was exceptional. And Dave, to answer your question, I remember very well hearing Jake say what he said about Zach. He said, I love it here. It's great. The fan support. And he said, but you can say what you want about me. Zach Agnos is the real Agnos. And I remember that so well, or the better player. Zach is the better player, he said. I remember that so well. And I think back, and the words you used, Dave, yeah, I think part of what he meant was he can do so many more things than I can. I'm a left-handed pitcher. He can do so many more things, and he's good at all of them.
Yeah, Coach O, you read my mind. I was going to mention that play that you just referenced against VCU, just the arm strength, because he was 5-6 feet into foul ground to get a decent VCU runner from what I recall. And then the play he made, I guess it was today, or maybe it was yesterday, at shortstop, diving to his left up the middle, and then quickly got to his feet and made a strong throw. And the play was reviewed. I can't remember if the guy ended up being called out or not, but the Cincinnati broadcast team on ESPN Plus, they were raving over the play.
Yeah. But you mentioned crossing the line, and we've seen him go to his left. I think one time earlier in the year, he went to his left and he alighted from the ground. He had to lay out to make the catch, but when he alighted, it was like lightning quick, and the ball was on the way to first base. It was. I know that's a tough way to describe it, but and you had to see the play, but it was just phenomenal as to how he beat a good runner with a lot of room to spare.
Coach, looking ahead to the upcoming week, 4-game week for the Pirates. You have Old Dominion coming to Clark-LeClair Stadium, and then a 3-game series with the Wichita State Shockers. You were on hand up in Norfolk when the Pirates lost that heartbreaking shootout. What was it, like 10-9, something like that, to the Monarchs here a few weeks ago? But tell us about Old Dominion and what the Pirates are going to see on Tuesday.
Well, really interesting. Not exactly what we saw this weekend, but in a similar way. Old Dominion is a prolific hitting club and with power, but Old Dominion is also a very weak defensive club. They don't play defense very well. Now they can pitch, and we mentioned we talked about closers, relievers. One of the best in the country is Noah Dean. We did see him for one inning, and he is quite exceptional. Small guy, left-handed, kind of the Billy Wagner type for you guys and myself that remember him. A little small left-hander that throws very hard. But their offense, 5 home runs against us in Norfolk. Austin Knight actually told me a couple of days later that he thought a couple of those home runs were majestic. They can hit the long ball, and they can hit it often. But at the same time, Pirates can score on them because compared to ECU a far better defensive club, and they can give up runs in that sense. But good club, and a lot of returning players off a super regional team from last year. Actually, a super regional team that lost in the 10th inning or would have gone to Omaha. And that was against Virginia last year. So it's a team that's somewhat fun to watch. You just hope they don't win the game, but as they did in Norfolk. Then we move on to the weekend in Wichita State. I think we all know the history of Wichita State, and they too are pretty offensive in the sense that they can score runs. But Eric Wedge has developed a professional mentality. He's a major league manager, as we all know, and he instills a lot of professionalism in that club. And they don't play the rah-rah college game as much as they do a business-like approach. And a really good team, a team that has some big wins. It also has some losses that they wish they could take back. But I think we're going to see through the course, Bubba, of this conference season, I think we're going to see, like ECU saw this weekend, that there are many teams that are a lot alike. Don't see anyone running away with the league this year, but yet we see everyone with several victories in their pocket. Cincinnati showed the Pirates this weekend that they're somewhat of a force, and I think Wichita State falls into that mode too. So when we break down the league, and as we do that over the year, when we see teams play, we're going to look back and say, you know what, there were many teams in this league that were a lot alike. Some had strength on the mound, others had strength with the bat, and then you have your speed and defense teams, and that's in the league as well. But yeah, there's some good baseball in the American, but it's also very balanced. And I think when Wichita comes in, we'll see another series like that.
And Coach, they literally today, Bubba, they had 7 home runs at FIU today. Old Dominion did, by the way, guys, and they had a run rule. It was 18-5. Amazing how they had a similar week as they lost to Campbell at home and then went on the road, and they lost the first game of the series to FIU. And guess what? They won the next 2, just like we did against Cincinnati. That's ODU. So just want to mention that to folks that definitely a great team, and it's going to be. Hey, here on out, there's, as the fans have found out, and going back to one final point I wanted to make tonight. Sorry, Bubba, I know we're running close to the end of the show. Coach Godwin schedules his team with the schedule. He makes it very difficult on purpose. And I know that Bryant's schedule, people can argue about Bryant, but you look at all the teams we're playing right now, we're going to definitely do I think you're going to look at a lot of these teams. We're going to make a regional and or super regional. Who knows? NC State and some others may make Omaha again.
Yeah, Dave, you could throw a few more in there too. Maryland, the top 15 club right now. Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. And a little more information on the Shockers. The Shockers really struggled the first couple weekends against a very good schedule, much like the Pirates. But the Shockers, they had a 3-game series at Louisiana Tech, which was a regional host a season ago. Then a game at Oklahoma. They had a game at Texas State, which is currently in the top 20, and playing very well. Some tremendous wins for Texas State. So they started off 0-6, but since have been 12-9, like Coach O said. Have some wins over Big Ten and SEC competition. They beat Texas A&M down in Frisco. And this weekend, they did drop 2 out of 3 to Houston, winning 4-0 in game 1 before losing the final 2 against the Cougars at Houston, 5-3 and 4-3. So a very competitive series there. And I would certainly expect the same this weekend as Eric Wedge's ball club comes to Clark-LeClair. But taking a look at the American scoreboard, in addition to, the Pirates, now being 2-1, Cincinnati 1-2, as I just mentioned. Houston is 2-1, Wichita State is 1-2. You had Tulane sweep Memphis, which was not all that surprising, even though it was on the road. And then you also had UCF. This was a little surprising that they swept South Florida. South Florida, as I had mentioned last week on the show, pretty soft schedule for the Bulls, even though they did have a quality club a season ago and high expectations this year. But the Knights were able to take all three.
Yeah, South Florida is a club that a lot of returning players too off of that strong finish they had last year. But UCF, some big wins. Actually beat Miami, I think, one time. But anyway, to see them sweep South Florida was a little bit of a surprise, and that was to be the series this past weekend of two teams that were to make a lot of noise. So yeah, to see a sweep in that, little surprising.
Richard Alsbrook chimed in, Coach, on Facebook with today's game being a 4-hour and 40-minute 9-inning ball game. What is the longest game that you remember being a part of?
Well, I can remember in some 9-inning games being close to 4 hours. I don't remember it playing in one or being a part of one beyond 4. But you see something like today, they don't get much longer than that. And not a 9-inning game. Now, the longer extra inning games, that's a different story.
Yeah, 22 runs, 31 hits, probably at least 3 or 4 reviews, if not more. And then between the two teams, 16 pitchers used. So that will equate to 4 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah. And in some ways, that was I don't know the word to use, whether to say that was quick, but I think, Bubba, you and I texted this afternoon, and 3-hour mark, we were in the 5th inning. We were halfway through in the 5th, 3 innings. 5th inning.
No question about it. And that's the beauty of the game, though, right, Coach? There's you have good days and bad days, and there's not every single day is going to be the same, just like not every single ball game is going to be the same. This case with baseball, and I love not to get off on a tangent, but I love the fact that just everything is that you don't know what to expect. And so today's game, we're talking about it now because it wasn't a ho-hum game. It was exciting and lead changes, and it was maybe not if you love defense, maybe it was not your day, but certainly very proud of the Pirates. And hey, they got it done, and we got 2 out of 3. We won the series, and let's move on. And again, we may see in May and June that we're looking back, like you talked about, that this was the start of something. You never know. We've got another great comment here from Craig, by the way. Oh, look wrong. There we go. What a great weekend of wins. ECU takes the series, and I take the Sports Subjective Bracket Challenge. Let's go. So we have that going on with the NCAA tournament, which is basketball. But thank you, Craig, so much for participating in that. And I'm sorry I keep doing that. I'm trying to get off of that comment from Craig. But anyway, we're proud of certainly the Pirates and what they're doing with us. I tell you, looking forward to a great week. Coach, do you have anything before we go?
No, just looking forward to the Pirates getting on a roll, and I think that can happen at any time, and I think they've proved that. All the pieces are coming together.
Coach O, I did have one final thing for you, actually, and this is from Pirate Alan Powell on Facebook. He said that Coach Godwin isn't a big transfer guy necessarily, but what are your thoughts on our starting rotation? And we talked about starters not going very deep into ball games, and Pirate Al's afraid of the impact that's going to have on our bullpen.
Well, but it may have an impact, but at the same time, there's a lot of depth in that bullpen, and there are a lot of good arms in that bullpen. So the way it's being used right now, I think, is a plus because Dave and I brought that out earlier in the show about how it can be better down the road. yeah, we're using pitchers frequently, but not for lengthy outings and not to the point where it's going to affect the wear on the arm.
No question about it, Coach. And the very fact that when you don't have, I don't care what anybody says, when you don't have Wilson Hunt, it wasn't a case of an injury. We talked about chemistry, identity of a team. I think they were expecting to have that Friday night guy, the lights out guy. Look at the way that he played against in the super regional against two of the best players, probably you say ever, but certainly at Vanderbilt. Think that we were going to have him, and then, oh, by the way, nope, we're not going to have him. I do think that plays a big part of the confidence of the team, and I think that the great news is these guys are stepping up, as we talked about, and next man up. And I think that we've talked about how the pitching was going to be a strength of this team, and I think the biggest part that we've had is we just haven't had the run production. You and I were talking about runners in scoring position earlier, especially in the season. Times when we're getting hits, we're just not putting it all together. But I think that it comes down to experience, and I think that over time, Jenkins, Coward, a lot of these guys are young and they have the talent. But experience down the line is going to play a big part at the end of the season.
And one thing to add to your comments about pitching, Dave, not to mention that when you lose a guy like Wisenhunt, everyone moves up a step. 2 is 1, 3 is 2, 4 is 3. Now, it affects every player. You're taking a step forward that maybe you're not ready for just yet. Later in the season, yes. Maybe not right now. We mentioned the Pirates don't have a number 1 guy. They don't have a Friday night guy. But at the same time, as they are stepping forward, next guy up, they're assuming these roles better and better with each outing.
No doubt about it.
And as you see there on the screen for folks tuned in on YouTube and Facebook, again, Pirates this week, Tuesday at 6:30 at Clark-LeClair against Old Dominion, a ranked Old Dominion team. And then you have Wichita State, the Shockers, coming to town this weekend, 6:30 on Friday, 4 o'clock on Saturday, and the series finale will be on Sunday at 1. Obviously, you also have the spring game taking place, and also Pirate Fest, right, guys? So tremendous weekend, a lot of entertainment and things to do. Get out to Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium, the Pigskin Pig Out, and then also 4 o'clock on Saturday, the ball game.
And Coach, will you be pulling your hair out with everything going on with all the being the head of operations in Greenville this weekend?
Well, there'll be a lot going on, that's for sure. And softball, baseball, the spring game, but we've had that for a few weekends now, so we're used to it.
Well, it's not your first rodeo. You're a pro and definitely not a rookie, to say the least. And Alan Vick said this was a huge series win this weekend. I think looking back at the end of the season, we're going to see that this weekend was really important going forward. I agree with you, Alan Vick, a tremendous person, a good friend of mine, and a great broadcaster. He definitely seen a lot of Pirate games in his day, certainly as well. Thank you, Coach. I know we've gone a little bit over time, but I appreciate you so much. Also, your time in the green room, catch up, and look forward to a great week with the Pirates, and we'll see how it wraps up at the end of the week.
Thanks so much, guys.
Hope you have a great night. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
No doubt great to have Coach on with us tonight as we have another great outing here. And I want to remind you, fans, Next Level Training Center, we appreciate Coach coming on. Next Level Training Center is never been there. It's Eastern North Carolina's premier baseball and softball training facility. You can go online to nextleveltc.com or call them 252-756-NEXT. That's 756-6398. Give Trent Brett and Gaynell Brett a call. They're excellent. They take good care of my kids. I can speak from my experience. They have coaches, trainers, different people there that'll take care of your kids. And not just because it's me, there's hundreds of care on at least a weekly basis. And Bubba, I wish you a little closer. I know that you would have Riley and Reese there as well.
Oh, no doubt. Riley has visited a similar facility or facilities in this area, both for baseball and a basketball equivalent of that. But Trent Gaynell do a tremendous job and really appreciate their support of the program. One final thing I did have, Dave,
Okay.
before we get out of here. Remember, folks, tomorrow, Monday, April 4th. So if you're listening to this right now live, or if you listen to it archived between now and 5 o'clock on Monday, be sure to go ahead and get those East Carolina football season tickets. You can, of course, order season tickets all the way up to the season. So don't think if you don't get them by tomorrow that you can't get season tickets. And most people realize that. But if you want them in the benefit of your Pirate Club priority, so you kill two birds with one stone. If you haven't gone ahead and joined the Pirate Club, do that first and then call 1-800-ECU and get those season tickets ordered. 7 home games. Packages as low as $125. So as you see there on the screen, you can go to ECUPirates.com or call 1-800-ECU to place your 2022 football season ticket order.
And Bubba, I have on a sad note, we lost a Pirate. I haven't had a chance to talk to you. Someone that was from Martin County in Williamston. He was a coach here for many, many years, athletic director. And that's Herbie Rogers. He passed away on Friday. Very sad situation. We lost him. So great Pirate. I appreciate everything he did. Obviously graduating from ECU, and also for all that he's done for his hometown and county and community. Herbie Rogers will be really missed. Want to dedicate tonight's program. He was a great coach for football and volleyball later in his career. He's very good. And of course, baseball. He was a tremendous baseball coach here, a player as well. So we're going to miss Herbie Rogers. And I wanted to mention that before we went out tonight. Herbie is going to be missed greatly. All right. I want to thank Coach Gary Overton very much for all that he does for us and for ECU. Thank you, Bubba, my friend. I appreciate you very much for all that you do for the program, producing and all the booking, everything behind the scenes and on air as well. All right. Until next time, don't forget Extra Innings is every weekend on Sunday nights. And you've been watching and listening to Extra Innings, brought to you by Next Level Training Center in Greenville. And it's all been right here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody, and go Pirates.
That concludes this week's edition of Extra Innings, presented by Next Level Training Center on the Sports Objective. Join us next Sunday night as we will once again talk East Carolina Pirate baseball. Be sure to follow the show on social media at The Sports OBJ on Twitter, at The Sports Objective on Instagram. Like and follow our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Listen to the show pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. As always, we appreciate you tuning into the show. Go Pirates!